إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا ما يهده الله فلا مضل له وما يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدى هدى محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة دلالة وكل دلالة في النار. Today, inshallah ta'ala, before we begin, the center of the day is by a ghazi. You gotta smell good, feel good, and look good when you're in the masjid, especially in the month of Ramadan. The topic of the night ta'ala is the role of the masjid, ya ikhwan. The role of the masjid, ya akhawat. And I'm just here to make you think. Really, that's what I'm here for today. So when we look at the situation, my dear brothers and my dear sisters, as I put on my beautiful spectacles, because I'm blind basically without them, we find on the authority of Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he narrated that the Prophet ﷺ said, أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال أحب البلاد إلى الله مساجدها وأبغض البلاد إلى الله أسواقها. وكما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم أخرجه Sahih Muslim. The Prophet ﷺ, he went on to say in this beautiful hadith, which is collected by that illustrious Sahaba, that companion Jalil of the Prophet ﷺ, Abu Hurairah, the one who possessed the kitten, the one who had a master memory. He went on to say, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that the most beloved places to Allah, the most beloved place or places to Allah are the buyut of Allah, the masajid of Allah. And the most hated places to Allah are the square ones, are the Eaton centers, are the Woodbine centers, are the Sheridan malls, and every other big mall that you could think of. Our topic for today, brothers and sisters, is the role of the masjid, and I'm just here to make you think. And we know that Allah, He loves the masjid, so we should love the masjid as well. The masjid is supposed to be a place of connecting with the deen of Allah Ta'ala and the community. A place where the women, the children are protected and welcome in the sanctuary of salama, peace. And the men can be nurtured by the murabbi. The murabbi is one who cultivates the people, the murabbi imams. Where are the murabbi imams? As Khateeb al-Baghdadi rahmatullah alayhi went on to say, himmatu as-sufaha ar-riwayatun wa himmatu al-ulama ar-riayatun. That the endeavor of the foolish is just to narrate a lot of narrations, but the endeavor of the scholar, the alim rabbani, the murabbi, is to cultivate the people. So in the masjids we need the a'immatul murabbiyun, those people that can cultivate the people. And we find, ya ikhwan, that cultivating the people in the next ajil, the next generations, is of the utmost importance. Where are the leaders? Who are leaders, who are readers, who are achievers, who are believers in the Ummah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? This is what the masjid needs to establish. 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years goes by in many of the masajid across North America that I've been able to frequent. And we want to know, where are those people that have learned and mastered aspects of the religion? whether it's tajweed or tawheed or the Arabic language or fiqh or aqidah or usul fiqh or sirah or tariq, history, or any of the other great sciences of Islam. Question mark. Where are the masjids that have a 1-year program, a 3-year program, a 5-year program? This masjid has one of those programs. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. I'm just here to make you think. So my dear brothers, my dear sisters, it comes a time where we got to make you feel a little bit uncomfortable so you can start to think. This is one of the hardest things for the Muslims these days, is to turn on these things they're called brain molecules in your brain, to start to make you think. So I'm just here today to make you think, brothers and sisters. The role of the masjid. My son, at the age of 4 years old, he's now 27. He used to always say to me at the age of 4, Abi, 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 Abi. Abdullah go masjid, Abdullah go masjid too. Abi, Abi, take Abdullah masjid too. Abdullah can go masjid too. Yes, Abdullah, you can go to the masjid too. So at a very young age, my son, I raised him on wanting to come to the masjid and hang out with the brothers. And I'd show him my beard, come and hang out with the brothers. From a young age, I raised him upon this. For me, I wasn't so fortunate to be raised in the masjid. I was raised in the church, ya ikhwan. My mother, she used to send me to Kennedy Tabernacle, which is in Brampton, and at a very young age, I was in the church. But I ended up in the masjid, ya ikhwan. This is the important point right here. I ended up in the masjid. Many kids, many Muslim kids, they grow up in the masjid, but they end up in the streets and in the clubs and in the jails. Many of the masjids, they're failing, ya ikhwan. And we need to get this straight, ya ikhwan. If the kids are growing up in the masjids, coming to the masjids, we're talking GTA and Canada and North America, what is the problem? So what is the main function of the masjid? I'm just here to make you think today. Is the main function of the masjid to produce hufaz of Quran? Is that the function of the masjid? To produce hufaz of the Quran? Because it's not working. The jail is filled with Muslims who have memorized the whole Quran. One of the imams that I know, he was giving dawah in there. And he was trying to give some dawah to the youth. This is just 2 years ago. And every time he quoted the ayah to those kids, they kept correcting the imam. They kept correcting him. The tajweed was good. The memorization was good. But it didn't help them stay out of the jail, because they became drug dealers. They became roadmen. They became waste men. They became useless men with no plans. The masjid is here, ya ikhwan, to produce muwahideen. Or muwahidun, ya ikhwan. People that solely worship Allah Azza wa Jal, and they understand Tawheed really good. Umar ibn Khateeb, he was not a hafiz. Bilal, radiallahu anh, he was not a hafiz. Many of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ did not memorize the whole Quran, but they were muwahidun. This is the ghaya, to produce youth that understand Tawheed really, really good, ya ikhwan. Khalid bin Walid, he was not a hafiz of Quran. I would trade 10,000, this is my opinion, I would trade 10,000 hufaz of Quran for one Khalid bin Walid in our lifetime right now, if we could find somebody like that. Because then we would have a man who's upon the sunnah, and a man who's strong, and he's able to get the Muslims in order, where the Muslims respect somebody. But we don't have that, ya ikhwan. I'm just here to make you think. I'm just here to make you think, ya ikhwan. My daughters have horror stories going to some masjids when they were very young. My daughters went to a masjid when they were young, and the lady who was teaching them Quran when they were young, she spoke another language other than the Arabic language, and she used to talk to all the students in that language. And because my daughters could not speak that language, they were pushed to the side. They were mimicked and mocked and looked down upon because they didn't speak that particular teacher's local colloquial language from back in the country. So the kids, they do not come to the masjid to be treated wrong. They come to the masjid to learn the Quran and to learn good behavior and good manners, not to be pushed to the side. They didn't Ya Ikhwan, they didn't treat my daughters good, and my daughters had a bad taste in their mouth, and I didn't know. They were too shy to say to me when they were young that the teacher is abusing them and not treating them good, not till they became older in life. So one day we went to a program. One day we went to the program and my daughters seen that teacher, and they came to me and they said, "Oh, Abi, that bad Quran teacher that treated us bad when we were young, she's here today." So because I was blessed to be the keynote speaker that day, I put in my lecture, and I said at that time that Islam is not on your tongue, it's in your heart, ya ikhwan. It's in your heart. Are you good to the other Muslims that are from this place and that place? Or only the Muslims that are from your place where you come from? So my dear brothers and sisters, I'm just here to make you think. I myself have been to many masajid in the States, in the Caribbean, in the UK, in Africa, in Mecca and Medina, and I've seen many great Muslims, and I've had many tremendous great experiences, more than the bad. But every now and then, ya ikhwan, there's a horror story that I have to tell about my experience in some of the masjids. So I will tell you a story. I went to one masjid one time, and when I came to the masjid, there were some brothers in there, as well as the brother who called the adhan. And I came in and I said, "Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh." And they looked at me like this. Who's that guy? Who is this guy? He looks a little bit different. I'm giving the salams, which is in chapter 4, verse 86, like we said the other day. I'm giving you the words of the Jannah. I'm giving you the words of brotherhood. I'm giving you the salams. And the masjid was silent, and there was 10 people there looking at me like this. I went, no one to give me salams. I went and I prayed my rak'atayn. I sat down. The imam of the masjid who invited me that day to give the khutbah, he came, he gave me a hug. He talked to me, pulled me in his office. About 10 minutes later, I was on the minbar. Now what happened after that, brothers and sisters, is a really astonishing thing. Magical things happen. We find that after I gave the khutbah, ya ikhwan, those same brothers, all of a sudden, they wanted to kiss me. And I don't like men kissing me, so I pushed them back. I said, that's not from my culture. We don't kiss men, except for our father. I said to them, brothers, don't kiss me. Then they tried to hug me. I said, okay, I'll take a hug. Then they wanted to shake my hand. Then they wanted to invite me for lunch and dinner. After I'm now qualified to be Muslim in the house of Allah Azza wa Jal. They invited me for lunch. Where was the Islam before that? So the role of the masjid, ya ikhwan, is to welcome the people that come to it. From the beginning, the people are coming to the sanctuary, to the house of Allah. It's not your house. You may have bad manners in your house, that's okay. But now when you in the masjid and you're representing those people that are pious, you have to have some certain type of adab and etiquette. So my dear brothers, I'm just here to make you think. Imagine if I was a new Muslim, or if I was a not yet Muslim, and I came to that masjid that day, coming to that masjid, what would a person experience? Now, this is the embarrassing part. One day, I brought my mom to a masjid. And when we came in the masjid, the shoes were everywhere. She could barely come in the masjid because the shoes were everywhere. And as soon as my mother came into the masjid, the first thing she did is she went like this. Oh, that smell. What is that smell? The smell of sweat, the smell of spices cooking, the smell of all kinds of horrible stuff. My mom, she felt very uncomfortable. The garbages in that masjid, they were not taken out. It was a filthy, dirty place, and our religion is supposed to be a religion of nidhafa, cleanliness. So what Islam are we showing, brothers and sisters? My mom that day, she could not wait to get out of the masjid. So what is the role of the masjid? I myself have witnessed in my 30 years as a Muslim, many times as a new Muslim, I've personally witnessed, not that somebody told me, even though I've heard horror stories for new Muslims and people who came to the masjid for the first time that weren't Muslim, and they said they'll never become Muslim because how the Muslims behave. I've personally seen Muslims fighting in the masjids. I've seen Muslims swearing in the masjids. I've seen Muslims with political aspirations to be the head people in charge of the masjid, and I've also seen non-Muslims come in the masjid and they're trying to put their political thing together. I'm just here to make you think. A good sign of the masjid is when you go there and your iman, it increases, ya ikhwan. When your iman, it increases. This is a good sign. When you see others in the masjid who also they increase your iman from their good behavior, and maybe they remind you of something of your religion, this will also make you love the masjid more, because there's people that remind you of Allah in the masjid. When you come to the masjid, you should feel loved by the community, ya ikhwan. I'm just here to make you think. The question now comes. What if the mayor came to the masjid, or the masjids? With her entourage, we would act a certain way. But what if the mayor came to the masjid and she was just wearing a tracksuit and she came into the masjid? How would we behave? What if the chief of police came to the masjid with his entourage, or maybe without his entourage, he just came down wearing a baseball cap and maybe a Toronto Raptors t-shirt and he came into the masjid? How would we treat him? What if the chief of the fire department came to the masjid with his entourage, or without his entourage, he just came in again with maybe a Toronto Maple Leafs jacket on or shirt on? How would we behave? What if the ambulance came to the masjid and took our body or one of our friends' body? How would we behave in the masjid? I'm just here to make you think. Malik Ibn Dinar, rahimahullahu wa rahmatullahi wasi'ah, he made a very beautiful quote, brothers and sisters, that when I read it today, I put down my glasses, I took off my watch, I just stopped and I tried to think of what he said. And the words that he said were so profound, ya ikhwan. Some people, they try to attribute it to the Prophet ﷺ, this statement, but it's not the statement of the Prophet ﷺ. It's attributed to Malik ibn Dinar, rahimahullahu wa rahmatullahi wasi'ah. He went on to say, a believer in the masjid is like a fish in the water. A believer in the masjid is like a fish in the water. And I thought about that for a minute, meaning that the fish, it just flows with the flow of the water. And the hypocrite in the masjid is like a bird caged, like a bird cage. He wants to get out. He doesn't want to be in the masjid. I sat down and I said, wow, a believer and a hypocrite. They're both in the masjid. One of them is pretending to be a Muslim and one of them is actually a Muslim. It was so profound, that statement. One is in the masjid like a fish in water, and the other one, ya ikhwan, is like a bird in a cage. Profound, wallahi profound. So we should come to the masjid, ya ikhwan, to worship Allah, which we all know. But another profound reason is to wipe our sins away from us, ya ikhwan. All the sins that we have, this is one of the beautiful ways for us, ya ikhwan, to get rid of our sins, is to make tawbah in the masjid. We should strive to be in the house of Allah whenever we can. Unfortunately, COVID has given us a hard time. If you don't have any appointments, responsibilities, one of the things we should strive to is to just hang out in the Quran and read the Quran. Hang out in the masjid and read the Quran. Make dhikr, make tawbah, make istighfar, make adhkar in the masjid. Our hearts should yearn to want to be in the masjid, which is the most beloved of places. So if the masajid are beloved to Allah, it should be beloved to the believers, if they truly love Allah. The matters of the dunya, work, family, recreation, they can distract us from the house of Allah. This is just the introduction to my lecture today. As this is the big lecture that I've been trying to prepare for, it's just the introduction. I'm just here to make you think. We have on the role of the masjid, ya ikhwan, to worship Allah, to build a place solely for this. Allah will build us a house in the Jannah, ya ikhwan. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, this hadith is collected in Imam Muslim, where the Prophet went on to say, من بنى مسجدا لله تعالى بنى الله له بيتا في الجنة. Those who help to construct or build the masjid, Allah Himself will build for us a house in the Jannah. I've been to Morocco, I've been to Saudi Arabia, I've been to Egypt, and I've seen some spectacular masajids built in the hundreds of millions of dollars, as well down to 5 million, 10 million, 20 million, 30 million, 40 million, 50 million dollars. Imagine your Lord Ta'ala building for you a house, ya ikhwan. So now the question comes, what goes on in the masjid? What should happen in the masjid? The 5 daily prayers, durus al-ilmiyya, knowledge-based lectures, tahfidh al-Quran, which is mainly one of the main reasons people come to the masjid or the youth, is to memorize the Quran. The khutbah, a place where the students and the scholars, they have meetings between each other and teachings and debriefings among each other, which doesn't happen hardly anymore. Halaqat al-ilm, circles of knowledge, where knowledge is being passed down the ancient way, which I had a chance to see a little bit of it when I was in Morocco a year and a half ago. The masjid in the time of the Prophet also was a place where great political matters and issues of the community, as well as the deployment of the security forces, were sent out from, where religious verdicts and fatwa were given. It is a place where the Salatul Janaza, the Salatul Jamaat, and many of the other Salatul Khusuf, these things should happen. Also, the accepting of delegations of people coming in from different walks of life, Muslim, non-Muslim, we should accept them in the house of Allah. Also, the masjid, it has certain etiquettes. When you come into the masjid, you can't just sit down. There's etiquettes of the masjid. It's not like your house. You come and you greet the masjid with Tahiyatul Masjid. Also, the Salatul Tarawih, which we are missing right now, we are fortunate and blessed to get about 4, 5, 6 days where some people were able to come and make Tarawih or Salatul Qiyam in the masjid. Last year we didn't have that opportunity. Now we see how beautiful and beneficial it is. Also, overcoming the social pressures and all types of issues like that. People come to the masjid to get repaired, whether it's psychologically, mentally, with their identity, or even their heart or their souls, ya ikhwan. It's a place where repair goes on. My dear brothers, the masjid is also a place where your body comes, where there has to be washed. Also a place, ya ikhwan, where we put our money in, where the lasting sadaqah jariyah will go on after we're dead. The masjid will still remain until Allah allows it. The role of the masjid, ya ikhwan, it is extremely important. And also the Majlis al-Shura, where the imams, they meet to discuss global issues. The masjid should be established upon Tawheed and the pure sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The masjids, they should be cleaned and perfumed with the best fragrances that we can find. And the masjids, they should have people that come in the masjid that their awrah should be covered, whether you're male or you're female. And many of the Muslims, they're lacking this. I have seen Muslims with holes in their pants in the wrong places, and I've seen all types of horrible things. I'm talking about the men. I'm talking about the men. They come to the masjid and they look like a bum from the streets. They would never show up to their job like that. They would never go to an interview like that. They would never show up in front of a judge like that. But yet they come to the masjid looking like a bum. But yet you're driving a Lexus car. But yet you're driving an Escalade. Coming to the house of Allah, ya ikhwan, when you come through those doors, put on your uniform of ibadah. There used to be a time where the Muslim, he actually had some respect for his deen and some izzah for his deen. And he would come to the masjid looking like a Muslim. Now when you go back out the door, if you got to put on your spaceman suit or your Superman suit or your Batman suit or whatever kind of suit that you got to wear, then put it on to make your money. But when you come into the masjid, ya ikhwan, you should look like a Muslim, and act like a Muslim, and behave like a Muslim. That's how my elders taught me Islam. Also, ya ikhwan, the masjid should be accessible for the women, the children, and those that are physically challenged, ya ikhwan. Some of the masjids, they're not able to allow for the women to come to the masjid, or they don't encourage the women. The children, when the children come to the masjid, they don't even teach the children properly, and the children are out of order. and those that can't come to the masjid because it's not accessible. Ya ikhwan, this is a shame. I'm just here to make you think today. Also we find, ya ikhwan, in the past the masjids have been a place of learning from the beginning of Islam. However, it's now a place of meeting, politics, weddings, business, fairs, retreats, dinners, aqiqas, madrasas, tahfidh al-Quran. Some of them are good, ya ikhwan, but the main reason should be to make the ibadah of Allah uppermost in our hearts and our minds and our souls, ya ikhwan. Also, ya ikhwan, the masjid is a place where nahu and sarf should be studied. The Arabic grammar, ya ikhwan. Also, history of Islam should be taught in the masjid. What were the mistakes of the Muslims in the past? Hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I don't see that many places teaching the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. A qualified person. The seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How he lived his life. We love entertainment. We love movies. We love all kinds of things, ya ikhwan. But have we studied? How many Muslims have studied some of the popular books of the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ? How many even have purchased the book for $5, for $10, for $20? You got the life of Bill Gates. You got the life of Jeff Bezos. You got the life of many multi-millionaires. You have their autobiography, Obama and all these other type of people, but you don't have the life of the Prophet ﷺ. Something's wrong with your heart, ya Muslimun. The books of Aqidah should be taught in the masjid. The books of fiqh should be taught in the masjid. And usul of fiqh, ya ikhwan, it is so important. It is so important. The other day an issue happened in the masjid. I was in another masjid outside of the city, and an issue came, and a brother came and he asked me, why did I do? And I said to him, al-mashaqqatu at-tajlibu at-taysiru. He's like, what's that? I've never heard that before. I said, akhi, this is a principle in usul of fiqh. He goes, what's that? I said, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Ya ikhwan, some of the masjids, they're teaching math. Some of the masjids, they have schools, they teach science, language, English, business, economics, and home ec programs and sewing programs for our sisters. These are some of the best masjids that I've ever been to. They got every program under the sun in the masjids. Brothers, now we're going to come with the words of Allah. Anything I said, if it inspired you, these ayats should inspire you more than the words of me. Because I'm not as eloquent as Allah Ta'ala, and I'm not as eloquent as the Nabiya sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. قال الله سبحانه وتعالى, after I say أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم, and Allah Azza wa Jal, He started this ayah, ya ikhwan, with something called al-hasr. Al-hasr is exclusivity, ya ikhwan. Allah Ta'ala went on to say, إنما, exclusively, only those يعمروا مساجد الله من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر وأقام الصلاة وآتى الزكاة. The masjids of Allah, the masjids of Allah exclusively and only, they should be maintained only by those who believe in Allah and the last day, and they perform the salat and they give the zakat. Deen upon deen upon deen upon deen. Innama is hasa, ya ikhwan, is exclusivity only for those who do that. And Allah Ta'ala said in the ayah before that, ما كان للمشركين أن يأمرون مساجد الله. It is not for the polytheists to maintain the houses of Allah Azza wa Jal. And ya ikhwan, I've heard in my 30 years of Islam in North America, a lot of masjids going to the bank to get a loan so they can build the masjid, which is not permissible. How are you going to borrow money from those that aren't Muslim to build the masjid? The masjid should be built by those believers in Allah Ta'ala. I'm just here to make you think. Under the authority of the people of Iman and Taqwa and a sound creed, the masjid must be safe and guarded from no innovations. Nothing new that Muhammad sallallahu that anybody came after him they brought to add to Islam or to delete from Islam. No khurafat, no superstitions. No polytheist preachers in the masjid. So if we build a place that has a gym, and we want to invite people to come there that aren't Muslim to come and talk and give the Muslims a talk on health or safety or anything else, we make a place for that. But where the place where sujood is from, ya ikhwan, then they shouldn't be there, ya ikhwan. They shouldn't. I'm a new Muslim. Maybe I don't understand the religion. You come and teach me the religion. I'm just here to make you think. Imagine, ya ikhwan, the neighborhood, how it would look. How would the neighborhood look, ya ikhwan, without the masjid? I'm just here to make you think. With no 5 times salat, with no place to make Jum'ah, we have to realize that the masjid, it is the heart of the community. It is the heart of the city. It is the heart, ya ikhwan, of brotherhood. It is the heart for the youth. It is the heart to feed the people that are less fortunate. Even the poor, whether they're Muslim or non-Muslim, if we have the ability, we should feed them, ya ikhwan. It is a place where the children, but also the women and the men, they should learn some aspects of the Quran. And Quran is just not tajweed. There's something called tafsir. We have to learn about this, ya ikhwan. Where Islamic tarbiyah, development and nurturing, that's where the masjid should have these things. Learning the manners of adab, learning the spiritual development, which we're going to talk about tomorrow, inshallah ta'ala, the tazkiyatun nafs, or the tazkiyatun nufus, cleaning the heart, ya ikhwan. This is something that the Muslims, we need to work on. I was just told today that there's Muslims in certain parts of the states that are breaking into the masjid, Muslims, not non-Muslims, breaking in the masjid in Ramadan, stealing the zakat box. Muslim. In Ramadan. Stealing from the people in the street? No, stealing from the house of Allah. There's issues with the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And we need to produce men, ya ikhwan. Lions of the sunnah. Men, ya ikhwan, that when we come to the masjid, the youth, they see us, the people, they see us. And they know that we mean seriousness about our religion, ya ikhwan. That they would never dare to come to our masjid, or any masjid, and steal from the house of Allah. We know for sure that they don't fear Allah, but I will call 911. I will call the police on a Muslim who steals from the house of Allah. I will do it. Because if they don't fear Allah, then they're gonna definitely fear the law. I will call the police on a Muslim who robs and steals from the masjid. I will do it. Because Allah's masjid, it has rights. Now if that person, ya ikhwan, was a person that had some mental problem, or they were hungry, they needed something, their rent wasn't paid, then shame on us. They should be able to come and ask us, Akhi, I'm starving. Akhi, I don't have a place to sleep. Akhi, I'm in some need, and the Muslims should help them out. Look into the situation, ya ikhwan. The role of the masjid, ya ikhwan, is all-inclusive, ya ikhwan. It's supposed to be a special place that has izzah, not just as a building, but in our mind and in our heart, that when you come to the masjid, it's a place of security. And I can remember, ya ikhwan, about maybe 10, 12 years ago, before they built the new big masjid in Hamilton, I was in the old masjid and I was waiting for the salat and I was waiting for the imam. And I heard somebody pounding on the mosque like this. All the other brothers, they sat in the masjid and they're like, it's got nothing to do with me, let me read my Quran. I got up, ya ikhwan, and I went down to investigate who was banging on the masjid like that. And it was a non-Muslim young teenager kid, panting and breathing. I opened the door, I said, what's up? He said, there's a guy trying to stab me with a knife, he's coming. This guy, his shirt was all tattered, he only had one shoe on. I let him in the masjid, as our religion teaches us, so he can hear the book of Allah and to be safe and secure. The guy tried to come into the masjid, I pushed him back. And I said, get out of the masjid. You can't come in here like that. With a strong stentorian voice. They said, I'm going to kill that guy. I said, not while he's in the masjid. Not while he's in the masjid. When he comes out of the masjid, he's not our responsibility. But when he comes in the masjid, he's safe and secure under the authority and the leadership of the masjid, ya ikhwan. So they can hear the book of Allah. So they can hear the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, like in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. This is the izzah, ya ikhwan, that we used to have, or it's in the books. The masjid is a place to unite the humanity of global brotherhood. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ. Afwan, I'm banging on the table. My phone is falling. Allah musta'an. Allah help us. Astaghfirullah. It is to spread the da'wah of Allah Azza wa Jal. It is the place where the biggest gathering of the week is supposed to occur, and the name out of all the weeks, all the days in the week, Jumu'ah is called the day of gathering. It's a special day. So how is it, ya ikhwan, that brothers, they come to the masjid, especially on Jumu'ah, and they smell so bad, they look so bad, and they weren't even working? How is it possible? If you're working in the streets, you try your best to clean up, put some perfume on. For those brothers that do decide to smoke, even though smoking is not permissible, throw a stick of gum when you're not fastening your mouth so you don't come with the stench of tobacco on your breath. The angels, they don't like it. And the humans, they don't like it, ya ikhwan. They don't like that smell. So my dear brothers, we only have a few minutes left, but I still have 2 pages left, so I'm going to try to finish it out, inshallah ta'ala, because I'm just here to make you think. Imagine a neighborhood where there was no Muslims and no masjid, ya ikhwan. What would that look like? From the greatest forms, ya ikhwan, of ibadah is in the masjid. We pray here. Praying in congregation, they say, the Prophet said, is 27 times better than praying on your own. It increases the unity. It builds your iman. There's a special reward for those that come for Fajr and Isha. Every step that you do coming to the masjid, it gives you a reward and it takes away one of your sins. One of the 7 people under the shade of Allah, the shade of Allah's throne, is the one whose heart is attached to the masjid. A place where your heart will find tranquility, ya ikhwan. قال الله تعالى وأن مساجد الله فلا تدعوا مع الله أحدا. You see people, I don't have my cell phone because it's filming now, in the masjid, not outside the masjid or in the hall of the masjid or down the stairs, in the masjid where the musalla is, making phone calls where other brothers are praying. Yes, brother, I'll pick you up later on, brother. I'm going to come over there and I'll meet you later. While you're in the musalla, Allah says, and this is reading deep in the Quran, ya ikhwan, and the mosques are for Allah. Do not call or invoke anyone along with Allah. You got to make a phone call, go outside. This is practical Islam, ya ikhwan, that's right in front of our eyes. And people are picking up their phone in the masjid, in the musalla, even in the salat or in the Jummah while the imam's talking. People are answering and making phone calls while they're in the musalla. وَأَنَّ مَسَاجِدَ لِلَّهِ فَلَا تَدْعُوا مَعَ اللَّهِ أَحَدًا. There's etiquette to this, ya ikhwan. The masjid, ya ikhwan, and I'm just here to make you think, it's not a cultural center. It's not a cultural center where you eat your rice and your spice and you drink your teas or you eat your burgers and your pizza. We could do that in there, but that's not the reason why we built masjids. This could be an incentive after we have programs, we can do all these things. But some places have become a cultural center instead of the Bayt of Allah Ta'ala. وقال الله تعالى في بيوت أذن الله أن ترفع ويذكر فيها اسمه يسبح له فيها بغدو والعشاء. Allah Ta'ala goes on to say, in the houses, the mosques which Allah has ordered to be raised and to be clean and to be honored, in them His name is glorified in the morning and in the evening, ya ikhwan. When was the last time, ya ikhwan, that a masjid that you know of, and I know that this masjid, compared to many of the masjids that I know, they're always trying to have knowledgeable people, more knowledgeable than me, more better than me, more educated than me, better Arabic than me, better Quran than me. They have them, they bring them to this masjid to educate the masjids, the Muslims in the masjid. And we've been seeing this from this masjid for many years. Spending money to fly people in to teach and educate the people. broadcasting people from all over the world to teach this community, ya ikhwan. So I encourage this masjid and any other masjid that's listening. How many books of adhkar, like Imam al-Nawawi's books have been taught on adhkar, how to make the different adhkar in the masjid. Shaykh al-Islam has a book called Kalimat al-Tayyib, which teaches the adhkar. That should be taught in the masjid. There's another book called Husn al-Muslim by Shaykh al-Qahtani. And then there's another book called Amal al-Yawm wal-Layl, and I believe if my memory is correct, and I think it's wrong, it might be Imam al-Nasa'i or Imam Abu Dawood or one of those other imams. I can't remember who wrote that book. But that's a very, very important book for us to learn the adhkar. And where are you going to learn the adhkar, ya ikhwan? You're going to actually go and buy a book and read the adhkar, which many people don't do. You want the free app? Let the masjid teach the people the adhkar. And this, ya ikhwan, we need to understand that this is just trying to learn the adab of the masjid. And I wish I could make this a 10-part series, but I think I'd probably be killed by the Muslims, or shot by the Muslims, or beat up by the Muslims. But brothers and sisters, I'm just here to make you think. The role of the masjid. And now the question comes, my dear brothers, my dear sisters. There's a role of the masjid, and then you and I, we play a role in the masjid. What can you do to help the masjid? One of the easiest things for us, ya ikhwan, and there were so many other narrations, I just was having a hard time trying to go through all the hadith and all the ayat and the depthness of the tafsir. And I said, what I want to do is I don't want to give too many people too many ayat, too many hadith. I want to make you feel from my heart the love that I have for the masjid. I was not raised in the masjid, I was raised in the church, ya ikhwan. I was not raised in the masjid, I was raised in the kanisa. And Allah blessed me and honored me to be able to not only come to the masjid, but every now and then, min fadlillahi ta'ala, wala nazaki Allahi ahadan, wala faqra, wala nazaki Allah ahadan. No bragging, no boasting. Every now and then they say, brother, can you give a small little word? Maybe you may inspire and motivate the youth. I get a chance to go and do some research myself so I can learn. I can read from the books of the scholars. I can go out and purchase the books of the scholars. Coming to the masjid, ya ikhwan, it is a great ni'mah. 3 of my sheikhs passed away within the last year and a half. 3 of them. Imagine they can't come to the masjid no more. They traveled all over the world and I was blessed to go meet them in the masjid. So the masjid, sometimes they invite big scholars to the masjid. You should be taking off whatever time. If a real scholar comes, a real bona fide scholar, you should make it your business to go to the masjid to sit at the foot of the real scholars, ya ikhwan. You may have to travel thousands of miles, which we have done as new Muslims. We've traveled to New York, mashallah, tabarakallah. We've traveled to New Jersey, to Philadelphia, to Chicago, to Detroit, to Trinidad, to Egypt, to Morocco, to Saudi Arabia, California, to try to learn 1 word or 2 words or 3 words that can help change us so we can become a better Muslim, so we can become a better Amatullah or better Abdullah, a better worshipper of Allah. The masjids are built, ya ikhwan, so we can learn our religion. What is the role of the masjid? And more importantly, what role do you play in helping to build the masjid and to keep the masjid running? It's not just you coming to the masjid, which is good. We love to see the brothers. But the masjid needs support. One brother, he said, I don't like to give the masjids any money. I don't trust them. So I said to the brother, Akhi, do you use the water when you come to these masjids? He said, yes. I said, when you use the washroom, do you use the toilet paper when you come to the masjid? He said, yes. I said, when you come to the masjid and they feed you and they bring you forks and utensils and napkins, do you use those? Yes. I said, Akhi, well, if you don't want to give money to the masjid, that's fine. Why don't you buy some toilet paper for the masjid? Why don't you buy some utensils for the masjid? Why don't you buy a case of water for the masjid? Why don't you do something for the masjid, ya akhi? Buy some salt in the wintertime and give it to the masjid. Buy some shovels and give it to the masjid. This is really personal to me, brothers. This is really personal to me, ya ikhwan. that the masjids should be maintained by those who believe in Allah and the last day. The real believers. And we're calling you out, ya ikhwan. Aina antum. Where are the believers in Allah and His Messenger in the last day? We see our masjid right here, ya ikhwan, due to different situations and different circumstances, and the COVID, and when you can build and when you can't build, and all the different stuff that the brothers that are trying to build this masjid, all those meetings that those brothers have behind the scenes to build this masjid. I'm looking at the potential of this masjid, ya ikhwan. I'm looking at the potential of this masjid, what it can be. Right now we have a big huge hole in the middle of the ground. The masjid is closed basically temporarily because of COVID. What are we building, ya ikhwan? We don't know. In 2 years we may be dead, but maybe we put $50 into the cement and they built this masjid, and this masjid, it may last for another 3, 4, 500, 1,000 years. You don't know. What have we given, ya ikhwan, to support the masjid and the role of the masjid? And I want to end it just with one last thing, inshallah ta'ala, because we have a few minutes. Many brothers, they don't understand the issue of al-ukhuwa al-imaniyya. As I took this from one of my sheikhs. We all know, the Prophet said, La yu'minu ahadukum hatta yuhibba li akhihi ma yuhibba li nafsihi. We know this. This is the middle level right here. This is ground zero. You will not have iman until you love for your brother what you love for yourself. But many Muslims, they don't know the level below that, and they don't know the level above that. And I'm here to educate you. What my sheikh taught me, I have to share with you. Sheikh said that, number one, you have to do what they call withholding your harm. Withholding your harm, ya ikhwan. What they call, ya ikhwan, in the Arabic language, harm. Forgetting the name right now, it's slipping me. Shar, or I forget the name now, it's slipping me. Withholding your harm from the Muslims. And the highest level, what we should aspire to, is al-ithar. To want better for our Muslim brother. You have a samosa and you have a shawarma. You meet your brother in the street who's been fasting, and you've been fasting. You give him the shawarma, because it's bigger and it's better and it has more stuff in it. And you take the samosa. Or you can cut it in half, and that's what you love for your brother. But definitely, ya ikhwan, if you don't love your brother, you don't care about him, you don't give him nothing, you go in the car and you gobble it up all by yourself. Rafal adha, that's the last one. It just came in my mind. I rebooted it up. To take your harm, whatever it is, fighting, arguing, smoking, doing all kinds of stuff, yelling, doing all kinds of harmful things. You withhold yourself from that with your Muslim brother. This is the first level. You don't bring your harms to the Muslims. Whatever harms you have, you don't bring them to the Muslims. That's the first right that the Muslims have on you. The second one, you love for your brother what you love for yourself. And the last one is ithar. As we find in the hadith, when the Muslims were in one of those maghazi, and one of them was dying, and he was saying, does anybody have any water? Does anybody have any water? So the water crew went out to give to him. And then just as they got there, they heard another brother say, does anybody have any water? Anybody have any water? And then the brother said, no, go give it to my brother first. Give it to him first and then come back. They went all the way over there, and then another brother further, I need some water, I need some water. And he said, no, don't give it to me, go give it to my brother. So then, again, give me some water, give me some water. Then the brother ran back to the first brother, he passed away, dead, rahimahullah. Then he ran to the next guy, he died, rahimahullah. The next brother died, he died, rahimahullah. But they all wanted that their brother would get water before them. Aina antum ya ummah Muhammad sallallahu. Where are you, ya ikhwan, that you love for your brother what you love for yourself, or you prefer your brother over yourself, ya ikhwan? The role of the masjid needs to teach us these things, and we need imams, we need murabbis, and we need mu'addib. Mu'addib. I'm the mu'addib, ya ikhwan. If you have bad behavior, ya ikhwan, I'm going to tell you that you got bad behavior. Maybe Allah, He brought some new Muslims in to shake up the place. But every now and then, maybe I can get it wrong too, ya ikhwan. We have to advise our brothers with the utmost love and care, ihtiram, respect and care, ya ikhwan. All of us are brothers. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةً فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَ أَخَوَيْكُمْ. And we end this lecture inshallah ta'ala, and I came here just to make you think, ya akhwan, just to make you think the role of the masjid and your role. Wa akhira da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Anybody online, if they have any quick questions? Any brothers here have any questions? No questions? No questions? Inshallah, make dua for your brother. Inshallah ta'ala. I'm just here to make you think. Wa akhira da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.